Would you ever let someone tell you who you should love? My neighbor insisted me to marry one of his sons, even though I'm in a happy relationship with my girlfriend. What started with a simple rejection turned into ripped pride flags and threats. Here's how I fought back. I, Xenia F. 35, inherited my pop's, my grandfather, house. Well, technically, me and Mom did. Mom is a college professor and remarried to a technical writer/engineer who makes a ridiculous amount of money and a big ol' mansion of a house, to me, in the well-off part of town. So she said Pop's house is mine. I was grateful and am still. This was about a year ago. I need to sort of set the stage here. Pop was a popular man. He helped everyone. The kids all called him Uncle or Pops, and his peers called him the Sultan of 2nd Street, never knew why they went with Sultan, other than alliteration, since he was black lol. He donated and loaned and gave money to whomever needed it. He was a Vietnam War vet, and despite the stigma of it at the time and that of being a black man, he made something of himself as boxer and boxing instructor. He opened his own place and eventually opened more. When Mom was small, he bought that house, and when Mom got pregnant with me and my father flaked out, Pops became that father figure. My childhood bedroom is in this house, it's now my study, and so everyone here knows us. Pop passed, and I got the house. All caught up? Okay, so there is a neighbor to my immediate right, who we call Suga Mama or Suga. Everyone knew that she had it bad for Pops, but see, after he left Mama, my grandmother, or more likely, she left him, he chose the bachelor/playa life. Yeah, he got around. It's still debatable if the woman who owns the house is on the third, if her son is my uncle. Anyway, Suga has a son Miles, M50-something, who also has a son, James. James is my age, and we get on well. We used to be joined at the hip in grade school, and even though we glowed into different cliques in middle and high school, we were friendly. Suga and some of the other older folks will joke about us. Soulmates. We even share a birthday with a strange coincidence, I will admit, but then they keep adding at the same hospital. Well, yeah, because back then, there was only one good one nearby. LOL. Now, to be clear, I am bisexual with a strong preference if my dating history has any sway for non-binary people or women. No shame in my game. I can talk about the absolute bullshit of homophobia in the black community, but you're not here for that. So I meet my now GF Dinah, who is also my age, and she is absolutely a dream. She's smart and hot and sweet and thoughtful and kind and a million other things. I have to stop there, or this post will be all about how out of my league she is. I started having her around the house, and Mr. Miles was around and offered his and James help in getting stuff from the truck into the house. At one point, James pulled me aside as he knew she was my GF and said I shouldn't mention it to his dad, but it was too late. Miles had asked her if the two of us were college buddies, and she replied that we're dating. Mr. Miles pulls me aside after and asks if it's true, and I said yes. Enter the homophobia and what would Pop think? LOL, I told him, Pop knew I was bi for years. I came out to him in high school, and he was A-okay with it. That shut him up for a bit, and we got me moved in. Well, now about a week ago, Mr. Miles came by. IWFM, but the fiscal year is coming about, and it's a busy time, so I made Mr. Miles had some tea and sat with him but made him aware I was calling this my lunch hour and couldn't entertain long as I was still working. He said, well, I will cut to the chase then, and said so matter-of-factly, you need to leave that woman. I laughed as my GF and I have been together now for over a year and are happy, so, no, why the hell would he even come here with this? He said Suga is sick, which I knew. She sadly got uterine and breast cancer in March, and she needs to see her boys married. He said he prefers I marry James, but I too would be okay with him if I marry his older brothers Daniel, 36, or Paul, 37. I told him yeah no. I won't be marrying any of his sons. I said I already have a ring for Dinah and am planning to propose to and marry her. I said I know he doesn't agree with gay marriage, and he frankly doesn't have to. It's my life, and while I love and respect him like a real uncle, he will not tell me who to love or marry. He yelled at me and said some awful things, and I wanted to say I was a badass and stared him down like Gayle King did to R. Kelly in the meme, but I cried. A lot. I just asked him to please leave. He did, but ripped my pride flag from my pole at the door, calling me slur. I got a new one the next day, and it went missing, so my GF bought me a door cam and a new flag. Sure enough, he came that night and ripped that one down, too. I texted him the video and said I would not press charges if he stopped all this. He said to go ahead, call the police on another black man, and if he's killed, it's on me and my sins. It's night here and I was cuddled up to my boo after a movie date night and we're playing Mass Effect, video game, aside, but can you believe this woman has never heard of this game? And there is knock at my door. It's Paul. He asks to speak with me outside, so I tell Dinah to keep playing, and I will be back. I don't see Paul often, so I thought something happened, maybe Suga got worse or something happened to his dad. Paul explained that he was here to ask me out. He had flowers and a stuffed unicorn. I like unicorns, don't read into it lol, and I, of course, told him I am in a relationship. He said he knew I had a GF but that wasn't a real relationship as a relationship is between a man and a woman and he knows I date men as I've dated a male mutual friend in my 20s. I just said my relationship is both real and none of his business and to leave. He then said he guessed I liked feminine men since my GF is trans, which okay bud she's not, but even if she was, have you seen this hottie? So I just laughed it off. SND said he was jealous he couldn't pull a hottie like mine and said I have cameras with audio so if he can please fuck all the way off and not force me and my GF to call the cops, it would be appreciated. I told Dinah, who howled in laughter and paused the game to watch the doorcam footage, laughed more, and then told me to post here. Update. So a few days ago I shared about Mr. Miles losing his ever-loving mind about me having a GF and basically put his son up to come over, demean my relationship, and ask me out cause that's a great plan /s. For safety, given Mr. Miles losing all the sense the good Lord gave him, GF and I stayed up at my folks and just got back yesterday evening. My dad double-checked all the new lights and cameras and then walked over to have a friendly chat with Mr. Miles. Not sure what he said but it had to be good because Mr. Miles didn't even sit on his porch to smoke his nightly cigar. And if you knew that man the way I do, you know that's not in character. I asked Daddy what he said to the poor man and he laughed and said, oh, baby, definitely nothing that would remind him of our good and mighty God or offering to send him to him. Susu. Sorry, I digress. So I expected everything to be okay because I'm stupid and thus went back to life per usual. I ran my GF's bath, jumped her bones, and woke up to make her breakfast thinking my life is some kind of wonderful. Only to hear a knock at the door. Today is Monday. Everyone who works is off to work and everyone who doesn't knows I WFH on weekdays. Something didn't feel right so I woke my love up and told her to get dressed just in case something was about to happen. I'm no warrior but I did have my bat and opened the door and made eye contact with a cop. We stare at each other. He looks down at my bat, then back to my face, then turns showing the cop behind him and looks at her. And I am here thinking well shit this is what I get for assuming this all would blow over. I will admit, I am not everyone's cup of tea so I use humor to compensate for being, well a weirdo lol don't know how else to put it. So I grin at the cops and ignore my heart racing and place the bat down and just say sorry I thought you were someone else. Coffee? They weren't amused and apparently didn't want coffee either. Who was I expecting and why a bat? I just said I wasn't sure, but we're two women alone in a house with someone at the door at the ass crack of dawn so. They asked for me by name and I confirmed I was who I was, even showed my ID. They asked me for my GF as they got a call. GF comes out and shows her ID. They asked to speak to us separately and I was getting upset. What's this about, sir? The cop looked at me really annoyed, then looked at my GF and asked if she felt safe with me, to which she said she did. He said he needs to investigate a call. I ask what call? He says he's the one asking questions and all I could think was great, he's that type of cop. He tried to step inside but we were speaking through a screen door which I locked last night and it was then he actually asked if he could come in. I said no, sir. My GF said she will step out with him to answer any questions and she does and the female cop takes her a distance away and talk. The male cop opens the now unlocked door and peers in my house asking if he can have a look around. I ask again what all this is about. He asks me questions. All centering around why anyone might think I am holding my GF here against her will. I was like, what do you mean against her will? He says her BF called and said I took her forcefully and kept her here overnight. To which I reply, what fucking BF? She's a lesbian and gay as the day is long. At this point GF and female cop come back and GF looks mad. She points at Suga's house and asks if that's where the call came from and outline everything that's basically in my last post. GF then goes, show them the videos, so I hand over my phone with the Ring app pulled up with the footage of Mr. Miles yanking our pride flag down and using slurs. The cops were looking at one another and then back at Suga/Mr. Miles' house. Mystery solved, I'm thinking. I'm not good in tense situations so I just crack, sure you don't want a coffee? And GF whacked my arm. We did the whole song and dance, sending files, getting their cards, filing a complaint for the damage of my property on Mr. Miles' part, and then my GF said she wants to press harassment charges too. The male cop snorted based on what? And the female cop took over. She said without solid and consistent proof, they can't press charges of that nature. We asked about hate crimes and they said taking down a pride flag isn't a hate crime, it's destruction of property. Suddenly I can hear the guy cop saying, "Sir, stay inside," and who else could it have been but dear old Mr. Miles, look at this old rooster up this early. Fuck. The old sour raisin is yelling for them to ask about me throwing around my GF last night. Cops aren't even listening to him, just telling him to go inside, and he keeps repeating that I was brutalizing her last night, which the creepy bits aside about him knowing anything about last night, I want to take as pine hell of a compliment. The cops yell for him to go inside or he will be in cuffs. He does, and the female cop turns to me and I just blurted if throwing around is what we're calling sex now. And my GF gave me a look like shut clapping hands the fuck up, so I did. It did get a laugh from the lady cop though. They told us to stay inside and we did, but you better believe we minded everything but our business at that point. We watched through my study window as they went and spoke to Mr. Miles. There was a back and forth and I heard the cop say turn around and Mr. Miles was saying like, "Why are you hassling me, man? I didn't do nothing." So the cop got louder and said, "Either turn around and I take you in or you go back in the house, sir." Mr. Miles was saying this ain't right, but he went inside. The cops stayed on the porch for a few minutes more. Then they departed. Update 2. This is slowly just becoming my little hobby of sharing what Mr. Miles and his family have been doing. After the police incident, it was pretty quiet this week. Dinah, my GF, and I also have just been living quietly in general, hoping the storm passed over. I can be such a damn fool sometimes. I thought it was all going to be fine. We have cameras, lights, Dinah made a rainbow, 'cause of course, no trespassing sign. She got mini pride flags and staked them in the front garden. Did I mention she gardens? She's literally a dream girl. Mr. Miles sort of went back to normal. He smoked his nightly cigars, washed his car, all the usual shit. Enter the HOA. I live in a community that, how can I say this? It's not the hood, but it ain't fancy. Lots of the people here are people of color and generational owners, meaning their grandparents or great-grandparents bought the house way back in the day and the owners inherited it. Nobody minds their business, but we let each other be as far as how we use the lawns and shit like that. It's very much a stay-in-your-lane situation. Guy shows up at the door. I'm not home, but Dinah is, so this is what she described happened, but I admit I zennied some details for the extra oomph. Dinah has coined that phrase as according to her I allegedly add a flair to retellings. She opens the door with the chain on and this pleasant-looking man is smiling at her, so she assumes he is a salesman. She just asks if our no soliciting sign is there and is about to close the door at that, but he said he's not selling anything, he's an officer with the HOA. Dinah hears the word officer and is cussing in every tongue she knows internally and just asks what he wants. He hands her a notice. Apparently we are in some sort of violation. Dinah's no pushover, so she's rather unimpressed at this point, and he is trying to explain we noticed some violations and she asks point blank if what he's about to say is in the papers he gave her. He says yes, and she looks it over again. Our rainbow shit? A violation. Oh no, it's 7. 7 violations all related to our rainbow shit. Now Dinah's got a main suspect in who is behind all this, and she is laughing in this man's face. He says he really doesn't want to fine us since they prefer to laid back. But this is causing complaints. So I get home and she's out back painting, nothing off about that. She likes creative DIY stuff, so I just let her know I'm home and there's a box. I assumed it was for her because she freaking loves Amazon. She comes in and shows me what she's working on. Rocks, signs, a set of garden pots, you name it. She has rainbowed it and I just sigh and go, what did that man do now? And she tells me about HOA. I was like, we have an HOA? And she hands me the papers. I called the number and the voicemail prompt checks out that it is an HOA. I've been the owner of the house for over a year. So it's news to me. But I'm also first-time homeowner and I've been wrong before. I had and have a million questions. Like, don't we get billed for it or something if we're part of HOA housing? Then I noted that all the issues they are threatening to fine are accompanied by grainy photos of said items and they are all our rainbow stuff. I realize that Dinah is 2 steps off scorched earth. It takes a lot to get her there, but baby, look out when she arrives at that destination, the sign being that she is about to rainbow the whole damn house. I asked her intentions and she just shrugs and says, "Oh, I thought they didn't get the aesthetic, so I'm helping complete your vision. How is this my fault now?" LOL, and I'm like, "Ooh, sweet baby Jesus, I don't have the financials to say fuck you if they find me to oblivion." We had something of a tiff about it. A tiff is a small little argument, but argument makes it sounds far more dire than it is, as she was camped in F them especially territory, and I'm thinking of the possible consequences. I finally calm her down and she's starting to see my side of it. "Guys, I fought the good fight, I really did. She was coming around, I was so close. So close to squashing this issue, calling it a night, play video games with my boo and go back to normal. But fucking no, because the goddamn box. The box wasn't addressed. It was just a box with a note that said it's a gift. They were flags. Not pride flags, but like various sizes of the American flag. Dinah saw this and flipped the fuck out. She's walking around the house cussing in more than one language. And I'm there in F my life mode, knowing damn well we're a step closer to scorched earth. That was last night. She was still creating her DIY rainbow stuff when I went to bed. I'm not even going to try and sound like I want to attempt to think it's anyone else up to this bullshittery for obvious reasons, gestures broadly, but also because Mr. Miles smoked his nightly cigar and I don't know what he said to Dinah, who happened to be out there. "Yeah right, baby, since when do you even like sitting outside at night, alone?" And she is swearing up and down he all but admitted it, but even if he hadn't, she checked our camera and Mr. Miles's son seems to be taking photos of our home from the sidewalk. So now we know at least Paul has something to do with this too. Dinah's not back from work yet, and IWFH, so I'm basically just waiting for the other show to drop because now my GF has gone full Gollum, and God help anyone who tries to stop whatever it is she is thinking about doing. It's like trying to stick your foot out to stop a bullet train. Not gonna happen and damn painful. I'll update when the other shoe drops. P.S. Our complaint to the police after my last update is still being investigated, and not to be any sort of way, but I don't expect much from it. Fingers crossed though. Pray for me y'all. PPS, also sorry for all the cussing. This has put us both in a state and I have a pretty foul mouth. Edit, just called my mom because she generally knows all. LOL, she said that while she isn't 100% about the now, as it's hard to recall so randomly while she's working, she knows for a fact there wasn't one when Pop owned the house. I'm going through the paperwork now because I can't let his go. Update 3. The police, after many calls from my GF Dinah, have basically said that our case doesn't constitute harassment and there is no evidence of anything more, video, but only destruction of property. They said it's largely a civil matter and thus should be handled in civil court rather than criminal. Best believe Dinah is not about to let this go. As for the HOA, we don't have one. And by we, I mean my street. Miles lives on the corner house, so he's on a technically different street. We checked and double-checked, and Dinah helped me sort through some paperwork for good measure. Nope. My street never had one and never signed on for one. Dinah was delighted by this. I mean, that hot hellion put all her rainbow projects out and then started talking about rainbowing the house. Like, the whole damn house. She wants to make it a project and for all to call our queer pals together and rainbow paint the exterior, including the garage doors and driveway. LOL. I said we should start small, and we agreed that she can paint our front and back porches first, and she found cute lights to shine on the house that can project rainbows, so we have to check with our other neighbors, but I said if they are fine with it, fine, hun. And now ladies, gentlemen, non-binary monarchs and all, I present to you, the fuckery. Mr. Miles saw me washing my love's car for her. It was just a thing I wanted to do for her. Not a normal thing I do at all. But she's been stressed, so I was going for the hot girl washing cars thing, in part to be cute and silly, and was in swimwear. She was calling to me from the upstairs window, whistling and stuff. I laughed. My other neighbors laughed. Mr. Miles came out with a mug of whatever the fuck evil drinks, blood of the innocent? Puppy broth? Who knows? Maybe just shitty coffee, and was glaring at us, scoffing when she would come out on our porch with her tea to enjoy the show. Let me be clear, we were not being lewd or anything. She was saying shit like, "What are your rates? My car has never been so beautiful. I'll pay you double." It's cheesy shit couples around here say all the time. Maybe the worst thing she said that maybe was less for public consumption was admittedly my favorite thing. "Hey good looking, what am I cooking? I will make it hot for you," implying she will make dinner. I don't know if I ever mentioned it, but Dinah is the best cook but generally doesn't take that on regularly, so her offering was heaven for me. Mr. Miles would ahem loudly, shake his head, do that indignant laugh older folks do, everything, so we knew he disapproved and was in the audience. So we ignored him. And I definitely didn't defiantly stay out longer, flirting with my woman to piss him off, solely. Anyway, Mr. Miles was too much of a coward, so sent Paul again. I was done with the car and Dinah made me a cool cocktail. Where we live, outdoor shit in the summer is done nice and early before the sun gets too high, so it was hotter than Satan's ass out, and we sat near the fan enjoying just chatting. Mr. Miles had long gone inside anyway, and this is our home. Fuck him. We're going to enjoy it. Paul waved as he walked towards us and Dinah said her favorite curses under her breath. He made some small talk with us, but Dinah was frosty with him, so I did most of the answers, but even I was short. But this is the South, so politeness is a bitch. Hard to explain. He said he was concerned about our cameras because it looks like they cover the yards of others and there are kids here and you know what that can look like. I will blame the cocktail, but I was feeling like fucking with him, so I acting dumb. What will it look like? And he was all, you know what I mean, and I was like, nah, what do you mean, Mr. Paul? And that went on for a bit and he just stared at me and did a condescending chuckle and shook his head, well, we'll see about what everyone thinks, just trying to be helpful given. And he gestures at nothing in particular. I smile as sweet as pie and thank him for coming by, but the cameras don't seem to bother anyone, but I will ask around. He told me to do that and walked off. We had been putting it off, but this spurred Dinah to look into Mr. HOA. He's legit. An officer of the HOA on the street the other end of Mr. Miles's/Suga's house. But Suga has been in the hospital for surgery and won't be back for at least a few days. She has a daughter I keep tabs with who has been in town to help care for her. When I talked to my own mother, she sounded annoyed about the situation as a whole and asked if I would mind if she herself had a discussion with Miles. She grew up with him, so I said that was up to her. She said great. In that way that I knew she would be calling him. This morning, Daniel, the other son, caught me as I brought out the trash cans. I was surprised because he doesn't live there, so I don't often see him. Small talk blah blah blah, and then he gets close and says that he's sorry about the whole thing with his dad, but I should be warned that he got into quite mood after talking with my parents, I assume Mom, and to tread lightly. I thanked him and went back in to tell Dinah. Dinah was in the nook, like a half-room bay window situation where Pop used to smoke, and she had gift stuff out like gift bags and ribbon. I was trying to figure if I had forgotten a birthday or something, and she just giggled and told me to come here. Rainbow flags. A lot of mini ones. Stuffed in a bright gift bag. I just looked at her like baby knew, and she just shrugged, saying she was the newbie here and wanted to be a good neighbor. To her credit, there are more than one gift bags and she is dropping them off as I write to every house on the street, but I know my GF. This is an FU2 to Miles. She said to ask my internet friends, you and a Facebook group I've been sharing this with, for ideas of how to spruce up the place now that we know there are no HOA restrictions while she's out. So this is an update and also a plea, for the love of God please don't give her too many crazy ideas. Give us some fun ones. I am all for painting rocks and patios and shit, but I still gotta live here, you know? Anyways, have a good long weekend if you're in the States. I still have a barbecue to plan. Edit, I just spoke to my mother video chat. Mom and Dinah have now synced energies. Help. Me. Mom said she talked to Daddy and they're wanting to pay for at least $2,000 to spruce up the place. Dinah is over the moon, has taken the device and is still talking with Mom now. Update 4. Well, the Mr. Miles saga continues, so to pick up from my last post, the barbecue happened. It was fun. Had my parents and chosen family over, open invite to my community, so some neighbors too, and Dinah's twin even came, and by twin I mean they're not actually twins, image that much hotness doubled. Laud. But siblings born on the same day a few years apart. For this I will call him David, M30S. Ick, I never remember. David is also as gay as the day is long and has heard of all the shit Mr. Miles has been putting on. Actually, every single person at the barbecue knew. It was a topic I couldn't escape. Dinah was serving vodka mixed drinks, and you can image what 3 queerdos can come up with after a few drinks. David loudly announced painting party as Dinah went and found every bit of paint we own. Before I could even work through my vodka-induced brain fog, people were painting everything. The porch, my chairs, damn near every rock around my trees, and all the raised garden beds. Now my backyard looks like a gay unicorn had projectile diarrhea and shat rainbows. I like it. We played Lily Allen Fuck You and other gay-ass songs, sang along. There are rainbow flags inside and outside my home at every window, in the garden, between my pumpkins. They painted half my pumpkins. This is not a euphemism, both cars have those mini flags that stay when you close the window. It was insanity. And the police arrived. They got a call about a disturbance from a neighbor and we all knew damn well which. My whole street of neighbors were literally right there except him. A quick aside here, but it's not illegal to play loud music during THR day here. Just after like 8 or 9 or something. So no laws were being broken. The cops even admitted that. But they suggested we just keep it down. We thanked them and didn't. It was a fun evening. My mom waited until everyone else left and she and daddy were drinking my best wine, just loving this chaos, singing Dinah's praises, gushing over how she's designed the interior of this old house. She did really well, I have to admit. It's updated in here and just brighter and fresher. There was a knock on the door and Mom got it. Mr. Miles stepped in with Paul and Daniel in tow. My southern politeness brain shit the bed, so I audibly groaned at the sight of him. Dinah came back from the kitchen, saw him, crossed through the whole ass room and planted a kiss right on my lips as she handed me a fresh drink and sat right on my lap like a housewife. Mr. Miles asked for a drink. Dinah told him everything is out and in the kitchen basically to say fuck you get your own and nice. His sons went to make him a drink and I politely asked what he needed. He said he wanted to have a take with me, alone. Mom said, and what do you need with my daughter, Miles? And he said that that was between him and me. I said I was drunk and tired so it will have to wait until morning. He had his drink, made some passive-aggressive comments, wished us a good evening, and said he will come by later. Mom walked him out. He did. The very next day. And sure enough I was alone. Suga isn't doing well. She's not responding to treatment. They're planning for the worst. I was devastated to hear this. She's like our neighborhood mom. I've known her all my life, she's practically family. So I started to cry. He was being so nice to me, handing me a napkin, speaking to me softly, rubbing my back and telling me to let it all out. So I did. And then right when I was able to catch my breath and calm down he said he wanted to tell me in person. I told him that was appreciated and I was so sorry for his family. He said I know. Thanks. That's another reason I wanted us to chat like adults. I know that woman you live with doesn't like me much. And I laughed without meaning to. Not like him? She would piss on his grave and stomp the dirt down to the tune of Hit the Road Jack should the chance arrive. And if she weren't fit for prison, she'd give herself that chance with her own bare hands. Mr. Miles is still being nice and says that he knows I am the reasonable one. And that we had our fun but this tantrum of ours needs to end. Suga will be coming home to live out her time and he doesn't want her to see our mess of a yard. He said it would upset her and he knows I don't want to ever upset her. I will be honest, I was so in my feelings over the news that he almost sounded reasonable to me. Then he offered to have Paul come over SND help me make my home presentable again and my brain kicked back in. I stared at this man, who just used the worst possible news a child could share about a parent as a tactic, and the spirit of Dinah came upon me. I very coldly told him to leave, as I have decorating to do. I think he thought I meant to tear everything down, because he left without a fuss. I told Dinah the moment she got home. At this point, her patience was up. She stormed out of the house and for a moment I was like, oh God honey don't do it, I don't even know where the jail is. And she came back in with bags. She had been shopping apparently and this part is entirely YALL's fault. She found so many items. Including colorful wind chimes. She just held up a few things and asked me to help her unload the rest and I was like rest. So we spent the whole night decorating the front porch. I will fucking marry this crazy ass woman lol. This past Wednesday, Suga got home. I rushed out to hug her and she hugged me back. It was one of those mama hugs that make you want to laugh and cry and let everything out. She held my hand tight and looked at our porch. Then she laughed and said, damn girl, you really leaned in huh? Then said something was missing. I asked her what and she said my flag. The big one I had in the front. I told her what Miles did to it and a storm went over her whole face. She got quiet and asked me to explain. I said she should rest and it's a long story. She turned to tell her daughter, who drove her, to make some lemonade and that she was going to sit with me on my porch a while. So I told her everything basically in all my posts including Miles' recent visit. She kept her expression steely the whole time. She asked a lot of questions. Then asked me if she ever told me about her first love. I thought she meant Mr. Richard, Miles' late father, and she laughed. She told me a story about how when she was young, before Richard ever asked her out, there was a woman her age who always dressed in suits, which for the time was not considered okay or normal. People hated her but Suga fell for her almost instantly. She said Dinah reminds her of her and that I seem really happy now that Dinah has moved in. Then she looked at me so serious and said, "So are you?" And I went inside to show her the ring I had long bought and that I am going to marry that woman if she'll have me. She smiled and patted my cheek, kissed my hand and went home. Yesterday my daddy called and said, "Hey, what's this about a wedding?" And I was like, "What?" And he said that he's not supposed to be telling me this, so don't tell mom, but she and Suga had a long phone call and Suga wanted to pay for my wedding. Not some of it. The whole damn thing. This is already long, sorry, I swear I am skipping a lot here, but I was obviously floored. There's paperwork involved and mom is working with Suga on it and daddy said, "Well, I guess you gotta ask that woman to marry you." And I said I intended to. So I am writing this antsy as fuck, ring in pocket, dressed up, waiting for Dinah to come home from the salon so we can have date night. Mr. Miles is about to have a complete conniption. Wish me luck. Edit/update. Hey guys, so I'm sad to say she said no. It was a lot too. I'm fucking with you. She said yes. Y'all, I am going to marry the most amazing, smart, strong, hilarious, crazy, loving, beautiful woman in this goddamn world and I cannot fucking stand to keep it to myself. We had such an incredible time. She came home and was already dressed, so we went out. It was my turn to plan date night, so I was at an advantage. I took her to a place that was like the restaurant her first date was in. Sadly, the original is no more, and we shared stories about that date. I was nervous and word vomited like an overfed baby. She found me charming. We then retraced a walk we had when I first told her I loved her. She had claimed up at it and skirted saying it back, but now she tells me every fucking day multiple times a day even when she's pissed at me. We then ended at our city aquarium. Hey, quick trivia, I was once a professional mermaid there. You read that right. Chloe, eat your heart out, where she stalked me just to ask if we are real, not just a fun summer fling, and to go steady. I took her to our favorite bar for karaoke, got down on my knee, and she stared at me and just went, "Shut the fuck up, are you proposing to me?" And before I even knew it, she pulled out a ring and we just laughed and kissed. We wanted to update you the good news. I'm up to sing at last for karaoke, so gotta be on my toes to serenade my fiancé. Fuck me you guys, I just said fiancé. I have a fucking fiancé. Me. With her. I'm so fucking dumb happy right now. Sorry. Rambling. Love you all so much. I love everything right now. Update 5. So it's only been a week and stuff happened, but generally not enough for me to come back to our lil online chat and be like slams hands down on table YLL. But in my random Reddit scrolling I got a message from a troll who linked a whole ass page of accounts with every insult under the sun about me. I'm insufferable, illiterate, not black, honestly that one was just mean, or gay enough, that too, and I had a good laugh at the gatekeepers of both things. Sorry, can't help either. And my not black enough black ass is bisexual and very used to being not gay enough for folks, so here's a think, sweet peas, don't read my posts, woman shrugging. Let me explain to you the absolute bullshit of binary spectrums in communities. They are worthless and labels should only be used for clarifications and short forms. Like I say I am bi, right? An argument can be made that I am pan. Are they gone? Good. Just you and me again, boo. Fuck the trolls. I really only logged on to scroll before I found a troll page of bullies Mr. Miles would be proud of, but ain't that a thing because Mr. Miles has no time for that right now, and that might be because my little rainbow-themed home has been such a blessing. I have neighbors I've never met from blocks I've never visited who pull up in their cars and say hello. I've spent more time outside on the front porch because of it. This week has been magic. Not only am I engaged to the hottest woman around, but Daddy surprised us with tickets. Christmas in paradise. We are going to Aruba. It will be me, my boo, my mom and daddy, and a pair of friends that are more like siblings. Dinah has been so excited, though she would never admit it. I can tell she's thrilled because she's already got a suitcase out and in a week's time has been placing items and clothing within. It's adorable. We haven't told many people about the engagement. Dinah wants to send invites first in the mail and then post on socials. She's been in full wedding mode and it's terrifying and cute. I can't wait to marry her. I can't wait to share more about the wedding, but we are a way off from there. We won't be having a wedding for at least a year. She has family not here in country and it's hard to get schedules going, plus she's in design mode and needs time to make it all perfect. So why am I here, other than to further make the trolls in and out of my DMs angry kiss mark? Well, it's because Mr. Miles actually crossed a line. Can't tell you what happened before, but I can tell you most of after. Whatever happened, Miles was out on the porch with his sister and they were having a heated talk. Dinah and I didn't even really register it until I paused our game of Injustice, great game, you should play, to grab a blanket and we heard them talking. Of course we minded none of our own business and rushed like kids to the window closest. Miles was drunk or something because his sister, I guess we will call her Candy. We don't ask women beyond a certain age their age, okay, kept telling him to be quiet and go inside and sober up. He got mad and she said that he can leave as he is not helping their mom, Suga, but making everything about him and his issues. He got in her face and started to yell, so Dinah and I stepped outside for several reasons, but one was definitely to be seen, so he knew if he put hands on her, there were witnesses. Plus we wanted to be able to step in if it did get out of hand. I said, "Hey Ms. Candy, you good?" And Mr. Miles, loud enough for damn near the state, screamed at me, "No one wants your F***'s opinion." Candy slapped him and Dinah was already on their porch before I even knew it. She was already pulling Candy back, but Mr. Miles just stood there holding his face. He called her a bitch. Then called Dinah a word I think would get me banned. Then said we were all incoherent but probably bigoted thing here, didn't hear him. I don't speak bigot and am only mildly fluent in moron, but he was loud enough. Suga came out asking what the hell was going on here and Dinah had no problems explaining our perspective. Suga looked at Miles and just told him to leave to his sons. Miles asked where he should go and she repeated to his sons. He asked which, and she said, "Whichever will put up with your bullshit tonight, Miles, I don't care." And she told me and Dinah to go in. We all did and we watched her lock the man out. He didn't even try to stop her, he just watched. And then he sat there for at least 45 minutes because we did check periodically. Not sure the situation because Candy and Suga will talk about anything but what? A week. Y'all. P.S. You damn right I am hanging out at the mailbox, pool, wherever to get the tea. Just don't have it all yet. LOL. Relevant comments. OOP on what kind of wedding she wants to have with Dinah. OOP, am good with a courthouse wedding, however Dinah would absolutely destroy me, LOL. Update 6. Laud, this is becoming one of those sagas, but YALL. Baby. Got. The. Tea. Okay, so in my last post, I shared about Mr. Miles and his breathtaking lack of social awareness trying to take on his sister, Candy, resulting in him getting slapped by said sister and then locked out by Suga. Yesterday, I took a day off. I don't know if I ever mentioned it, but I get vivid and awful flashbacks sometimes, usually only when I'm overstressed or overstimulated these days due to CPTSD, another story for another time perhaps. Well, as much as I prefer to keep it light, Mr. Miles acting that way with my fiancé within a physical range of him freaked me out a bit. I wanted to scold her for putting herself in a position where she could get hurt, but I remembered two very important things that made me shut the fuck up. 1. If that man of a certain age hit my girl, he wouldn't get a second hit because she can and will floor him, and part of me thinks she would want the excuse. As said by Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther, as amusing as that might be, I still don't know where the jails are and the whooping she'd give might land her there for at least a night. 2. Honestly, he's not that stupid. He is a moron. They like to pile more on, which is why he keeps upping his passive-aggressive bullshit. Different from an idiot aka and I do it reactionary. See what I mean? Anyway, regardless, I got a bit stressed. I didn't sleep that night or the night after and had flashbacks for the first time in a hot minute. Nothing I can't handle, I've dealt with this most of my adult life and I know how to recognize and cope with my symptoms. But that said, to cope and help me decompress, I took some PTO yesterday and sort of just hung around. I was out on the porch waving as folk went by, even walked to the community pool for a lunchtime dip, and then I fuddled around the garden picking some food to cook and surprise Dinah. That's when everyone's favorite neighbor, I will call her auntie since that's what I actually call her in real life along with checks notes everyone else. She's our resident tea party aficionado, she lives to serve and spill everybody's tea. When Pop was alive he would warn me to never volunteer info to her that I don't want God, her angels, Satan, his demons, and my mama to know. She's that person. She's sweet, truly, But if you ever want a secret spilled, she's your woman. I think she's 50-something, but I honestly don't know. She's claimed 30 for at least a decade. I don't think even she really remembers her real age. Anyway, she walked by while I was in the front garden beds, and we had one of those random chats people have when there is no polite way to just ignore one another or keep things brief for the sake of time. The South be the South. She asked me questions, and I gave carefully selected answers per usual. She made very weird assumptions about Dinah, some of which I corrected, and some I left her to assume because, TBH, it's simply funnier that way, and then she got on to Mr. Miles. I heard Miles hollering out here like a damn dog, and I laughed. I said he sure was, and maybe I am a jerk, but I OOPS let slip that he dropped a slur or two. Whoops. Sorry, not sorry. She then said he's been all sorts of messed up about his son. I inquire who, and she doesn't know which one, but one of them not too long ago came out to Suga, who, as you might guess, accepting him happily as is with no trouble. But Mr. Miles gowned out and hit the fucking roof. He was screaming and ranting and throwing things and shouting insults. If I had to guess, I think I know which son, but I'm not 100% yet. When I asked when all this happened, the time she gave aligned with right before Dinah moved in with me. Like maybe a month before, if memory serves. I had that aha moment right in front of Auntie, and she said, "You just thought something good," and was trying to get it out of me, and I thought about it. It would really fuck Mr. Miles next few weeks at least if I let slip accidentally that he has tried to marry me off to his sons. So I told her. Fuck him. She acted scandalized and my mission was complete. I offered some of the veggies and went on my merry little way. I didn't think it through. Suga was over right before dinner. I was frantically trying to cook, y'all. I should not be allowed in a kitchen, so I just invited her in. We chatted like we do, and she ended up helping me cook, and by helping I mean she sort of took over in that way only mothers can, by basically pitying you to death before they keep you from burning the house down. Pat pat, good work honey, now it's the grown-ups' turn. As she cooked and I cleaned and set the table, she apologized because she didn't know Mr. Miles had called me a slur. I told her I had no intention of telling her since I didn't want to upset her. She said to hell with that notion, she's tougher than I think. She beat cancer after all. I just stared at her like, what does she mean? She looked at me like I was crazy and she said, well, didn't I get the invite? I said, what invite? And she is throwing a fuck cancer party to celebrate the end of her treatment. I told her that I am confused. I thought she was. And she stared at me like, what, girl, spit it out. So I told her what Mr. Miles told me about her dying and to not upset her. She stopped everything she was doing and spun around and shouted, he said what? And then explained she was in the hospital longer because in her excitement to go home, she fell and hit her head, so by their procedure had to keep her a while and do scans before release due to her condition and age. The closest she is getting to dying is merely age. I actually dropped into the chair next to me and bawled my eyes out. She wrapped me up in a big hug and tried to calm me down. She kept saying, baby, I ain't gonna leave you just yet. Now stop that crying. And I just screamed I can't, laughing and crying at the same time. I can't break down all the memories I have with this woman. She's our community mom, grandmother, and all in between. She's the glue that keeps us a community. She keeps the peace, helps you out, offers you comfort. Stealing myself for her loss was taking so much of my energy. It's the reason even, though Dinah and I wanted the wedding out at least a year, we kept it as soon as possible within that time. We wanted her there. A weight didn't lift from my fucking shoulders, it was an entire building. She went from comforting to angry once I calmed down, cursing Mr. Miles to herself. And she said, this is why, that boy. And she saw me listening to her and shrugged. She's kicking him out. He's been really terrible and has been talking about all he will inherit when she got sick at the beginning. She endured listening to her own child sounding almost like he was over her death before she died and moved on to gimme, but then he started to mistreat me and Dinah, and that was enough for her to be sure she wanted Candy to be her caregiver. The night he was drunk and a special slice of stupid a few days ago was after she told him he needed to find a new place to live as Candy and her husband will be moving in after Halloween to see after her for a bit. We finished cooking and Dinah had gotten home. She actually saw me in the kitchen apron as I went to greet her in the front and, smiling I swear, she just went, oh no, what's the damage, lol woman, I cook for you and that's your reaction. I bring her inside and we insist on sending Suga home with a plate of the food she mostly cooked and she went home. Over dinner I spilled all the tea to Dinah, who reacting similar to me at the news that Suga will be okay. She still has a couple conditions to monitor, but death's not coming stealing just yet. We then placed bets on which son came out. If I am right, we're getting a small hot tub. If she's right, I have to take over chores for 2 months. So we will see. Anyways, I returned to work today and didn't have time until now to post. How's the tea taste, y'all? And just a hearty thank you for following my cray-ass life, lol. It's helpful to have fun with it and see the humor with so many friends. It really helps me release some stress at the same time. Thanks a lot. Edit, had to make a quick text, but we're getting that damn hot tub. I was right. It was James. Final update. Coming up to the top before I post to say, this became an emotional, long, crazy, and sentimental post. I am sorry, not sorry, blame it on the boogie. Coming back because Dinah had read this and said I should say at the top that you should be warned about content around self-harm and homophobia. Hey, boo. Been missing you. This might be not as entertaining, but I am a little sad on top of all the other feelings. This might be my last update on this crazy-ass saga. Why? Well, it's all about Miles. No Mr. here anymore. I'm Southern, but that ass doesn't deserve the respect and I am feeling spicy today. Long story short, fuck, who am I kidding? It's never short with me. Sit down, get comfy, have some tea. I hear I'm great at spilling it. So I texted James to confirm my suspicions that he was the son Miles flipped out about being gay. James confirmed it but asked if he can call me later and I agreed. I can't remember if I've said in these posts, but he and I are close. Not best friends or anything, but intimate in the sense that we don't lie to each other and always have had this kind of unspoken pact to always be honest. And by the gods was that man honest. I'm allowed to share all this, by the way, as per our agreement. I didn't lie about these posts. He said the names were different, but he heard it on TikTok, God I am old, and felt it was too similar and he'd been meaning to ask me. I laughed and he had a great time teasing me for always being one to give an account of events with a flourish. I argued that that's how we cook around here, with seasoning. But then he got serious. He apologized for not coming out to me. TBH, it did hurt me deeply that he didn't see me as trustworthy. It took a good and deep talk with Dinah to realize that feeling was selfish and we all have different journeys in realizing and sharing who we are in this crazy-ass world. She reminded me of my own crazy story, I'll have to tell you. I think I will post it someday for the cathartic release of it all. And y'all are such absolute gems. I feel like maybe you're not my neighbors in the real sense of it, but you are in my soul. So I got my head out of my ass and somewhat started to get over it. I'm human. I did tell James all of this. And he seemed pretty sad. I said that I wasn't blaming him and assured him that his journey is his. I am not mad at him or anything, and given how his dad reacted to me being queer, I get it. He then told me what happened. James realized he was gay when he was in college, but his father and grandfather had very detrimental views of those in sin, so he squashed it and threw it, and his real self, firmly in the closet. Sometimes that monster, as he viewed it then, came out like a trauma response when he got overwhelmed or stressed out, and one day after graduation, he had been in something of a relationship with a guy James is asking me to call Adonis, LM fucking AO, and they wanted to eventually get married. The problem of Dear Miles still was in play, so James started to go in a dark place. It ended when Adonis came home and found James in his own sick after he swallowed a bunch of his pills for sleeping. They pumped his stomach and he was okay in the end, physically, thank the ancestors for that, but his mind was in shreds. He started therapy at the insistence of his BF. He started to feel like himself, his real self, and became the most grateful bastard in the world that his attempt to end himself didn't work, because he says his life now is absolutely incredible. So once he recovered, he went to visit his dad and grandmother. When he got Suga alone, she was cooking his favorite meal, jollof rice and fish. If y'all haven't had this, you need to try it out. It's not a hard recipe, it just takes time and love. I will share the recipe with anyone interested. When I got the house after Pop died, Suga shared hers and I've adapted it to my and Dinah's taste. Lord, sorry, you know how I can sometimes go off on little details. Anyway, he's with Suga and she's telling him that she missed him and why hasn't he visited, and he slipped and said he was hospitalized, and she obviously wanted to know more, so he just up and told her everything, feeling not his full self, meeting Adonis in college, having his first time with him, falling in love with him, all of it. He was so sure she'd kick him out, but he says she just smiled at him, brought his hands to her forehead, and kissed his cheek. She said she already knew he was a little on the pendulum of sexuality since he got into his teens, but she was swelling with joy that he trusted her enough to tell her. He felt emboldened by this and decided he would tell his family at dinner, which Auntie, as I mentioned in another post, told me about the outcome of that. Afterwards, Miles did everything he could to convince his son that living in sin was wrong. Adonis is a demon, he just needs to marry a nice girl, become a father, be on the oath God outlined for us, and I don't think the word count will allow for me to outline all the fucking abuse this man threw at James, but what I will say was that in telling me about it, James broke down several times. It broke my heart and ignited a part of me I didn't know I had: rage. Pure and unbridled. I felt a rage, something fierce, and I couldn't let go of it. I thanked James for telling me, and he said, "Hey, add it to your little saga, I'll be reading to see what seasoning you put on it," and then we made plans for me to meet Adonis next time he comes around the area, but he did text me a photo and, child, he really did find a hot one. Think of, say, Chris Evans and then Keanu Reeves, and imagine they made a baby with the real Adonis, and that will be close. Abs, blue eyes, killer smile, he's a model. James bagged a fucking model. Sorry for the cussing, but damn. Even Dinah thought he was hot, and her door does not at all swing that way. I told Dinah about my chat with James and she said we need to really foster that friendship more. I asked her what she meant and she said, whenever you talk about him, you look happy. I think he's a real touchstone for your joy of childhood. And I thought about it and she was right. James, I know you are reading too. You really are such a brother to me. I know we don't talk often and I know we both have lives, but you are as much a part of me as my eyelashes. I'm lucky to have you, so don't you ducking dare be a stranger. Yesterday was insanity. I worked a half day from home and there was a knock at the door. It was Suga. She brought some food because she saw me through my window working away and figured I needed to eat. If you don't have a community Suga mama in your life, I am sorry. They are the best. We ate and talked and she said she had news. Miles isn't coming back. His sons refused to take him in, drunk as he was, that night, so he ended up at his GF's house. And I know for a fucking fact everyone who says my posts are fake will point to this very moment, but I swear there is no way to make this up. He proposed to said GF and she accepted his crusty ass. Girl! And he calls his mother to say that now she has to choose. She is not invited to his wedding until she apologizes and helps him fix James. I literally was howling and no he did not, and she's screaming oh yes he did, baby, back and forth for what felt like hours. You ever have that? When you just are sharing something so ridiculous and you both know it's ridiculous and you just can't get over it. That feeling. We laughed and then I saw her get a little sad. This is already super long for a single post, but in that moment, Suga just shook her head and she said she really tried with him. He's her son and she loves him so much, but he's not a good person. Then she went through specific moments where she might have gone wrong. Like she was, what's called here, a whipping mama at first. If you're not Southern, that's code for she was a spanker. She learned after her other children that hurting them ain't healing them and she never raised a hand to them again. But Miles still came out needing to be a big man. It's why his first wife left him. Second too. Didn't know he had the first wife, myself, so that's new but explains a lot. I always thought the second was his only. She was sad and I hate seeing people I love sad. You may have picked up on this, but I am awkward as hell. Not great in emotional situations. And when I saw her wipe a tear my brain broke and did the fuck fix it spiral, or what Dinah calls my Jack O'Neill if you get the reference I love you mode, so I went with being funny. I told her about talking to James and made fun of both our stories and how weird it was that folks so close to each other are still not close to each other sometimes, because he didn't tell me he was gay and I didn't tell him I was bi. It all had to come out after the family drama. I swear I was funnier, but Dinah is making me cut that part to be brief. We laughed and she said that she sees me like her own and loves me like a daughter. She wants me to be happy with my love the way she wished she could have been with hers. She doesn't regret her children, but Mr. Richard, her late husband, was only nice as an older man. He was wretched to her when they were married young. She married him some out of a platonic type love and the rest out of pressure to be normal. We hugged and I said something about my posts. I'm a moron. Sorry. And she got very confused. I said I only mention it to say that she has so many people now who see her as I do. A treasure. And I screenshotted y'all's sweet comments about her and texted them to her. Today she's asked me to print them out for her. I'm waiting for the printer to be done now, which is why I am typing on my phone. Candy texted a thank you saying that Suga was low after kicking Miles out, but she was happier when she got home from visiting me. Can't say why, but that made me cry. Jury is out on if that's good or bad. Dinah and I both agree, and Mom is on board to pay for one of those online classes and ask Suga if she will officiate us. I have no clue how I will ask her, but I really want her to be a part of our wedding in a really special way. We're still spitballing about it, and of course we have time, but I want it to be special. She is so much a part of me, of us, I need it to be highlighted. And the reasons I am posting today, I was told by Candy that Miles took his belongings early this morning. He refused to speak to anyone in the house and just silently took his stuff and hauled it into his truck bag by bag. The only thing he said was he's never coming back, and now they've lost a son/brother. Candy said she said back that he's no brother of hers. So with Miles gone for good, I guess so is the end of this weird-ass saga of mine, lol. Dinah looked up subs and shit I can post on about other stuff, but this, I don't know. It feels almost like a goodbye. Weird. I'm emotional about it. I am so glad Miles is gone, but damn. I'll miss you and our timely little tea parties. Take care of yourselves and be good to yourselves. Remember to eat well and hug your family, chosen or bio, close. A couple of items I want to spell out, call it housekeeping. All names were fake or nicknames, so no, I probably am not the person next door. That was an actual message I got a lot. Yes, I call my stepfather daddy. It's not weird to love a paternal figure who loves you like his own, will be walking you down an aisle, has dried your tears, told you that boy, girl, or person didn't appreciate you and took you out for treats just to see you smile. He is my hero, and the weird messages and comments about him, just get therapy. Not here to kink shame, believe me, but Christ on bikes Batman. Sugar mamas are a thing. Do you not have those? That's so sad. They are the best. Maybe you call them something different. For me and the culture I grew up in, they're usually women without children, but all of them are maternal, loving, safe, trusted, and will hound you to get your shit straight, or gay. LOL, sorry, I couldn't help it, I am a child. Yes, we are looking for hot tubs, and yes, we are going to be sure that Suga and Candy can come by to enjoy it too. Dinah speaks several languages and English is not her first language. I might be marrying a spy, but you got to admit that's pretty hot. Even if I die. And yes, people do WFH, lol, what odd conspiracy theories I've read that I am not real because I WFH. I own a business and work full-time, and I also program here and there by contract. Now you know. Lastly, I was an English major. If that doesn't tell you something, it should. Thank you all. My heart is full. Edit, got a few asks for the recipe. You're so very welcome for the droves of humans who will bow at your feet for this. Okay, so here is what you will need. 2 cups long grain rice, not any other type, just trust me here, okay? Otherwise, the type doesn't matter. And if you can, make it parboiled rice. Then 3 tablespoons vegetable oil, but I did use avocado oil before when I hadn't gotten groceries and I didn't notice a huge difference. 1 chopped red onion, white works fine but red is better. Minced garlic. Now that is something you measure with your heart and nothing else. I tend to throw garlic and cloves at everything. Grated ginger, now just be careful with it. It's a powerful flavor like salt and you can't unginger, but again measure with the heart. 1 red bell pepper that you will blend to baby food, about 4 medium tomatoes also into baby food, 2 tablespoons tomato paste, which is already baby food. The rest is pretty normal. 1 teaspoon curry powder, 1 teaspoon thyme, 2 bay leaves, don't leave it in or it will taste bitter, 1 teaspoon paprika, 1 ghost pepper if you're feeling spicy, 2 cups chicken or vegetable stock. Dinah comes from a vegan family, so I've done the vegan version of jollof and seasonings to your or your guests' tastes. That's all for the rice alone, which is very tasty, but if you want to really kick it into high gear, here's what you need for the fish, for the grouper fish. However many fresh or fresh as you can, grouper fish fillets is best, but in a pinch find the best flaky white fish and pray, lol. 2 tablespoons olive oil, 1 tablespoon lemon juice, minced garlic, 1 teaspoon paprika, 1 teaspoon cumin, half a teaspoon cayenne pepper, if you're feeling spicy, fresh cilantro, for garnish, 2 tomatoes chopped into quarters, 1 green bell pepper chopped into bits. If you've got all that, here's how you make a woman want to marry you, or man, person, whoever. Make a fish marinade, use a bowl, toss in your olive oil, lemon juice, garlic, paprika, cumin, cayenne pepper, salt, and pepper. You rub that on the fish and let it sit for a half hour and OMG, you're about to see heaven. Now make sure you heat oil in a large pot, you'll need the real estate, trust me, over medium heat. Add your onions, garlic, and ginger, and sauté. Stir in the blended tomatoes, red bell pepper, and tomato paste. Cook for about 20-ish minutes, stirring until it's as thick as your live for yourself. Now add the curry powder, thyme, paprika, and bay leaves and stir that up like your gossip buddy does drama. Pour in the chicken/vegetable stock and bring the mixture to a simmer, then rice next, making sure it's evenly distributed in the sauce. Cover the pot and dial down the heat to low. Let it cook for a half hour, but do not walk away from it. Stir it so the rice is fully cooked and fluffy. Yes, the fluff matters. Here it gets a little intense. While the rice is cooking, you also need to heat your pan over medium heat. I use the Couts because no stove is the same, and add a bit of olive oil. Sear them fillets for 5 minutes on each side until golden brown and cooked through. Do not rush this. In the last 2 minutes of cooking, toss in the chopped tomatoes and bell peppers around the fish. Sauté until soft. Put your cilantro on that and let your partner grovel at your greatness. They will propose, so stand ready. LOL. Relevant comments. OOP on things being resolved and her thoughts on her grandpa, Pop, being well liked in the community. OOP, I would like to think I am. Pop was a favorite around here and folks still drop by to see him, usually people that moved away and are randomly in town, to see him. For a little bit, people would just walk right on in since Pop always left the door open and had an open door policy for them as kids to keep them safe and off the streets. I can't be half the hero he is, but I keep the open door policy with a sign caveat. There is a light I turn on when anyone can just walk on it. But when it's off, best knock. I've got a hottie who's dumb enough to marry me, so some of my in-house activity is simply NSFW. OOP on if her father is in the picture. OOP, my father and I don't talk. I honestly don't know where he is now and don't care. My daddy has been my dad for as long as I can really remember. He's always been a good friend of Mom's for many years, and when they told me they were dating, they were afraid I would be upset, but I was so happy. He legally adopted me when I was a child. He's my hero and my mother is so happy with him. Damn, sorry, that was a lot of words to say. It makes me happy too.